Good morning to our dear professor and her assistant. Good morning to you, classmates. In this presentation, I shall show you how three researchers employed Stufflebeam's CIPP model in evaluating the respective programs. Oh yeah, by the way, that's Dr. Daniel Stufflebeam, may he rest in peace, who developed the CIPP model. Before we go on any further, Stufflebeam's CIPP model belongs to the scientific modernist tradition and therefore expectedly systematic. It allows users to look comprehensively into the entire curricular process by considering four components after which the model was named: context, input, process, and product. We shall see the different considerations that go into each component as we go along. The three researches I promised earlier represent quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methodologies in the application of the CIPP model. The first paper is from Pakistan. It is by Aziz, Mahmood, and Rehman, 2018. The research locale was a welfare school system in Rawalpindi. The second is from Malaysia. It is by Sankaran and Saad, 2022. It offered a CIPP evaluation of a Bachelor of Education program in the said country. The last one is from Florida. It is by Burke, 2020, and it focused on a BS Health Systems Management program. Now, let us look at how these researchers employed the CIPP model for their own purposes and using different approaches. Let us begin with what went into their respective context evaluations. Aziz, Mahmood, and Rahman focused on the school's objective, which was to provide moral-based, high-quality instruction to middle-class families. Meanwhile, Sankaran and Saad included the school's mission vision, teaching strategies, and education experience in their context evaluation. Burke, for his part, excluded formal evaluations of context and input in his paper and focused instead on process and product. Nevertheless, he noted the diverse characteristics of the student population as an important aspect of the curriculum's context. Thus, we learn from these examples that context evaluation involves looking into the VMGO of an institution or program and considers whether the same are anchored in the specific needs and purposes of its target population. Now let us consider their input evaluation. Aziz, Mahmood, and Rahman defined aspects of input evaluation as the available and existing resources that can help attain the objectives of the curriculum. Thus, they included the prescribed curricula, the availability of teachers and their ratio with students, and the school's existing and functional facilities and equipment in their evaluation. Similarly, Sankaran and Saad investigated the syllabus, teaching plans, infrastructure, and human resource components in their own research locale for input evaluation. Interestingly, the first paper did not find too many gaps in the implementation, while the latter identified problems in their school's syllabus, plans, and infrastructure. As mentioned earlier, Burke did not include any explicit input evaluation in his paper. Anyway, from this, we learn that resources, as defined under input evaluation, can pertain to the prescribed curriculum itself, the human resources, the physical and non-physical infrastructures, and the equipment necessary to meet the program's objectives. Thus, we arrive at process evaluation. Technically, this component is to be done periodically to assess the extent to which a project is being carried out appropriately and effectively. Aziz, Mahmood, and Rehman singled out teaching and learning processes in their evaluation and found their locale's processes to be healthy and effective. Sankaran and Saad did the same thing and included constituents, learning approaches, and assessments in their analysis. They found out that their respondents had issues with the way assessments were done in their program. Lastly, Burke specified aspects of teaching and learning to include other services such as advising, interaction with faculty, real-world learning, interacting with diverse groups, and student organizations. Therefore, we come to understand process evaluation as looking at how these inputs come together to allow the teaching-learning process and other activities relative to it. So, we've come to our final stop for today, product evaluation, the component where ultimately the evaluator decides whether to sustain, improve, or change the curriculum. Aziz, Mahmoud, and Rahman reviewed the context and input components and concluded that they had great impact on student skills, attitudes, behavior, and grades. Sankaran and Saad, on the contrary, found that many of the input variables do not facilitate teaching and that the goal of the teaching program was not effectively met. Burke's paper was more specific with its product evaluation and listed achievement of various skills such as leadership, critical thinking, and communication. His respondents said the program was generally helpful in all those criteria. To summarize thus, we learned that Stufflebeam's CIPP model of evaluation looks at context by evaluating the soundness of the program's VMGO, input by considering availability of the prescribed curriculum itself, of the teachers who will implement it, and the physical and non-physical infrastructure that will allow its effective implementation. Process by looking at the teaching learning process itself and its attendant processes. And lastly, product by evaluating whether the VMGO were met and by reflecting on whether the program should be sustained, modified, or changed. As we saw in these examples, these evaluations may be done qualitatively, quantitatively, or using mixed methods. For more information, we may refer to Stufflebeam and Zhang's 26 checklists to plan and guide evaluations for both evaluators and the stakeholder because as an iterative model, the CIPP requires that there be cooperation between both parties. That'd be all. Good morning.